morning who are observing the various presentations. So still folks know.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, I see the recording light on, so this means that we are ready to start the meeting. So welcome to the second session of our board meeting, 135th board meeting of the ISOC board. Today we again has a pretty packed agenda, so we'll try to be as efficient as effective as possible. We had to move a couple of items from yesterday to today, so that we're gonna deal with them today in today's agenda. So Kevin has sent an updated agenda so that everybody can, yeah, that's exactly the updated agenda. So we're gonna start with the nomination committee approval, which we couldn't do yesterday. And then also the PIR update, which is in executive session, but that will be point 18, because for technical problems, we couldn't actually have it yesterday. So today we will hopefully have Roberto and Brian join. We will also have a continuation on the trust objectives, some discussions we couldn't end yesterday, and then we will have the board planning sessions also in executive session. And of course, the president and CEO updates, they will be given as planned. So without further ado, we can move to point 14 in the agenda. Alice, do you want to present it before we pass the resolution?
Okay, do you want me to go through very quickly through the report? Or
no, I mean, if there's anything you want to mention before we go ahead and try to pass the motion.
Yeah, I think the most important note to make is the fact that we had less nominations and less candidates, the lack of diversity, and that this presented a very good opportunity for the nominating committee and for those of us who've served before, Desiree and others, to begin to ask questions as to whether or not we may need to review the working methods of the nominating committee within the context of the vision mission of ISOC and how we want to go about it. And also regarding the level of transparency vis-a-vis the privacy, the question that was asked by the chapter delegates that we may need to consider as we consider perhaps reviewing the nominating committee, its working methods, and how we want to go about it going forward, because it actually links to so many other work that is ongoing with the governance committee and with the broader how big do you want ISOC to be. So I think that's all I can say at the moment. The final report is going to be made public. We had 17 candidates applying, compared to 39 the year before. Several reasons given. There was quite a number of us from the nominating committee engaged, quite actively in outreach efforts, but those didn't seem to really have worked. We probably also need to review how we engage with our outreach as well, and to what extent board members and the nominating committee is expected to engage in those activities. So those are just some of the key points that came up that we may want to think about. But beyond that, it's just a very factual report on the numbers and the process. Okay,
thank you, Alice. Thanks for the highlights. And then at this point, we will move into yes, passing the resolution. You all have it on the agenda. I don't intend to read it. So would somebody make the motion? Hans-Peter, who seconds it?
Desiree.
Desiree seconds it. So John, please capture that. And we're gonna do raise of hands. So I'm gonna ask yes, no, and abstain as usual. So everybody in favor of approving this resolution, please raise your hands.
Yes.
Or say yes, I can see you. Okay. Everybody opposed, please raise your hands now or say no. Okay, and everybody abstaining, please say abstain or raise your hands. Okay, so the resolution passes unanimously. John, please capture that. Thank you. Moving on to the second point in today's agenda, which is the President and CEO updates. So, Kathy, please, the floor is yours. You are muted, Kathy.
She's muted.
Yeah.
Hello again.
Now it
Hope
works.
you all had an opportunity to take a look at the summary deck that I sent along. It's been a very busy, almost finished first quarter for the staff of ISOC. A lot of activity on the trust issue. We had a very successful outing at NDSS, 2 big speeches, a lot of press around our trust agenda. That seems to be moving along quite well. As you know, Olaf is going to be on this commission. That's very important. You're going to see us preparing now for the G20 and the RightsCom, all of which we will be concentrating on this trust issue. As you heard yesterday, the political environment, the policy environment has shifted, not only in the US, but in Europe as well and across the world. And so there's lots of challenges on this, and I think we're very busy thinking it through. The access side, we've just gone through a very, very successful apricot. We were present very much there. Lots of discussion about where we have to go with connecting those who are not connected. So a lot we could talk about, but today what we've chosen to do, and I hope this is the right emphasis for you, is to take 3 issues that we think are central to building a stronger ISOC, as we say, and to tell you our thinking about it and where we're going. One on the membership side, which, as you know, we've given a lot of thought to over the last year, and Aisha will present that. Secondly, this is the 25th year of ISOC, and we are starting to rev up some of those conversations about what it means to look back 25 years and to go forward, and that's a big theme, and you're going to hear what we have planned for that. And then third, and very importantly, we're deep into redoing our website. We believe that this is going to be the next very large both branding but also substantive push we can make in becoming truly an internet company, if you will, and having a portal that works for us and for our community and beyond. With that, Aisha will first present the membership strategy that we have been working on, and we hope that we'll have plenty of time for discussion. So Aisha, you're on.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. Kevin?
Just before you go ahead, sorry, for the whole 3 slots, we have 1 hour, just so that you guys can plan accordingly. Please.
I will be as succinct as possible. And actually, you know, the questions that you all put to me over email in the past couple of days have probably answered some of the questions. So that's helpful. Kevin, if you could put up my first set of slides, please. So I am absolutely delighted to first say that we have a very hardworking set of staff on the partnership development and the stakeholder relations teams. And I'm delighted to let you know that we have now hired a new senior director for partnerships and development. Next slide, please. Tim Hoswitschka will join us on the 3rd of April. He is based in Ottawa and comes with a lot of experience with the Canadian Red Cross, as well as other fundraising and development experience. Kevin, if you can send the slides to the board after this, they can have a good look at his bio. But just to quickly tell you, I'm very excited about this new person who's going to join our team, and I think that's part of how we will be successful along with the other staff who's working hard on what we're trying to do. So you can go to the next slide, but then we can just go straight to the substantive presentation. So all of you will get this and you can take a deeper look, but we'll all join together to welcome him on the team. So my presentation is about how we're going to use the organizational members, the individual members, and the individual giving initiatives to strengthen our organization. The great work that goes on in the programmatic side of our house is all about what we can then use to strengthen our individual and organizational members' involvement. So I'm in charge of the elements of helping to bring our community together. As Kathy has mentioned, we did a lot of work last year. We've done the analysis. We've done a lot of strategic thinking. And this year is about implementation. This year is about acting on that and making sure that we can bring our community together in this exciting 25th anniversary year to promote our messages, all the good work that's being done on the ground, and our goals in the world. Next slide. we want to bind our community to really help us be the voices we need at the local, regional, and global levels. This is about bringing our community together, and that's what I'm charged with, is helping to make sure that our members, well, I'm charged with it along with my wonderful team, to make sure that they get more actively engaged, that they get what they need, and that we as an organization are strengthened by this community that is behind us. Next slide, please. Building our community is building our organization. Building our membership is about having impact, and our members are part of our credibility, and we want that voice around the world to be heard for all the good work that we do as an organization. You'll hear more from James about the substance of the campaigns, but I'm charged with ensuring that we get the community behind us to carry those messages, and that's what we are going to be acting to do. Next slide, please. So this is just an example for you of the kind of advocacy and call to action that we would like to be putting out into the world. And I just have you notice that, you know, what we're trying to do is bring messages to our people that touch people, that have a connection to their interests. And we also are calling for them to join, as you can see at the bottom of this slide. We want to bridge everything that we're doing to also strengthen our membership. This also has impact on a lot of the work in Raul's team and the grants and the activities that we do on the ground. So the call to action is coming. Next slide, please. Becoming a member-focused advocacy organization is what we want to do this year and continue the efforts that we've put underway. We've changed our look and feel. We've done a lot to build some of our tools. Being a member-focused organization is going to mean that we need to take action to strengthen the individual membership. What we want to do is bring the numbers up, but also bring the active contributions up and involve them in action-oriented requests. And this means what we're rolling out, and you'll see this in a next slide as well, is a target that will mean regular communications that are of interest to our members. Next slide, please. So in general, you know, we want to build our strong relationships, we want to build the trust and confidence, but we also want to make sure that we're integrating across all the work that we're doing in our departments. We want to make sure that the campaigns and the action-oriented requests are done in a seamless manner, in a way that makes sense for people. And that is what you will see in that regard. I also want to say that as I've announced Tim's arrival, you will see some reshaping and restructuring of the PD and SR teams. And this is part of how we also need to work this year to make sure that we are seamlessly bringing our members in, new members on the organizational side, as well as the individual side, and then taking care of it. Next slide, please. So our organizational members are not only a revenue base, that's a very important part of their being a part of our house, but they also are influencers. And we currently have 113 members, as I put into the email to the board yesterday. We've had some changes because of the cleanup that we've done to get ready for the board election, etc. But I would say we need to aim to build that, and that's what we are going to do this year, and that's part of why we're strengthening the partnership development team as well. Broadening and deepening the relationship with organization members is part of how we will have influence around the world. And what we are doing is putting in place a strategic plan to do that, both to add the numbers, but also to be responsive to them. As you know, we did an organizational member survey. We are currently analyzing all of that, but are planning by Q3 to put in place a communications plan, a way to message with them that is targeted to what their needs are. We have started to understand our organizational members better, and they have different needs and interests, but we need to be targeted in how we bring them in and make sure that we use this opportunity this year as the 25th anniversary year, as well as the fact that we now have a very dynamic OMAC leadership. And I think that they are demonstrating that they're bringing to the table the important issues that organizational members care about. And as we've seen in deepening the plans that we have with the organizational members, is they're responsive to interests. Next slide, please. If they have if they have something that is important to them, then they are engaged. And if it's just informational, they may not engage as much. So what we're trying to do is really focus on the needs of different audiences, attracting new members, and as well as making sure that we're doing the care and feeding of our existing membership, which is really important. There are a few things that we will be doing. We're going to be acknowledging our organizational members' needs through the tailored communications, but we're also launching an OMAC newsletter that would also be targeted to the things that are of interest to them. We have also listened to their feedback on what kind of meetings they want. They want to meet because there's substance. When there's a real issue, they want to be together. They have also said to us that, you know, meeting at the IETF is really important to them. So we will be holding meetings at every IETF. We're going to assess the utility of having another meeting at an IGF and potentially an ICANN meeting, but that has not really been a very, not that many OMAC members have time at an ICANN meeting. So we really want to be carefully listening to their feedback. And then I also want to raise awareness about what we've been doing in Africa, and I'll make a call out to Alice. Thank you, Alice, very much for your support, as well as the African Bureau and Ted, who's been leading this project. What we have done is to try to take a look at understanding what would attract potential organizational members in Africa. We targeted a few countries. We've gotten some very good feedback, and it's about understanding what their interests are. We would like to not only deepen the relationships with our existing members, but we want to be able to, in the future, also expand the diversity in other regions. So Africa is one of the focuses right now. I would say that I see a growth in organizational members from Europe and North America in the near future. But I think we have to be listening around the world in order to make sure that we continue to build for the future in terms of diversity, both across sectors and regions. Next slide, please. So this just gives you an overview. I won't read through this, but I basically have covered some of the highlights of what we plan to put into action to strengthen the organizational membership. Next slide, please. So our individual members, we currently have 95,996. But they're not all equally engaged. And that's what part of the assessment that we carried out has shown. And so what we want to do is now be focused on how do we help them to help us to have impact. So next slide, please. This is an important slide because this is part of what we learned from the assessment, that we do have a segmentation in our individual membership community. And by looking at this and understanding what different parts of our community in the individual membership needs, we can be more targeted in what we're doing. And I think the goal is to bring them across. You know, wouldn't it be great if a follower becomes a leader or eventually a donor? So that's part of our goal, progressively getting them more involved. Next slide, please. So in our 25th year, strengthening our connection with our community is really important. And again, I'm not going to read the slides, but we have targeted ways in which we would like to do this. Part of this is linked to the campaigns. Part of this is linked to the special events that will take place. But, you know, with this energy, I think we have a really amazing opportunity this year to get people to act. And that's going to be a very exciting part of what we do. Next slide, please. This also just gives you an overview of what we have planned. Included in this is the work that we would be doing with our chapters and making sure that we're carrying through on the communications plan with the individual members. Concretely, there's a membership newsletter, and this ties into the new website and the opportunities that we would then be profiling on the website as well. Next slide, please. So in December of 2016, we started to have people opt in. And as many of you are aware, there are legal and programmatic reasons, business practice reasons for us to confirm our membership. This is a really good moment in our 25th year because we have a lot of momentum, which by reconfirming and having our membership re-opt in, we're also going to be in parallel building our individual membership. So this is part of ensuring that going forward at 25 years, we actually know who our members are and those who really want to be a part of it. And then we build from there. So, you know, the legal part of this is one piece, but I think it's really important in terms of the future for our membership and how we're going to be able to work with them. Next slide, please. We do need, pardon me, go back, if you could go back, just to say, we do need to be prepared. The membership numbers could go down. None of us have, you know, a real concrete idea at this moment what that could be. We did have an interesting only 5% drop when we did a database cleanup at the end of last year. So, you know, we were not sure how much that would be, and 5% wasn't bad in terms of just cleaning up the emails that are actual. So going forward, what I would say is, you know, we're going to do a lot to build the membership. We're going to do this cleanup. And I think in, you know, by Q3, we should have some idea to let you know what we think the membership numbers would look like given the re-opt-in process. Next slide, please. So individual giving. There are a lot of people around the world that we haven't tapped. And, you know, this is an effort that's going to be targeted at both getting small amounts from many people, but also getting bigger amounts from those who want to be supporters of us. All of the activities that we're doing need to be focused on involving people in a way that they actually do want to support us. So next slide, please. We all know we haven't communicated with the wonderful individual supporters we've had in the past 3 years. That's going to be fixed. We will now have regular communications quarterly with those people who give funds to us, and we will be reaching out with them with information that would be of interest. And we will also be making sure that the legal and financial requirements across different countries are being complied with. And, you know, the key is the follow-up. I think that people like to hear back when they've been a supporter of an effort like ours or many other places where people give money. And so this is going to be part of the building process, and we will be rolling this out. By Q3, Q4, we also will be reaching out to people close to us, like the board members and former board members and staff, so that we can all be leaders in championing this opportunity to support by giving individually or putting in touch with people who would be interested. So next slide, please. We have ambitious goals. We budgeted for 8,000. Again, I really believe that there are a lot of people out there who would give. This is going to be a year of experimenting with this and seeing what we can do. But I believe that there is real opportunity here. So, you know, we've put in an ambitious goal, and we're going to do our best to reach that. But I think we'll learn a lot in the next few quarters, and by the end of the year, we'll understand even better what is attractive to people and how the individual giving campaign will be progressed and how it will work. I'm very confident.
Aisha, I want to make sure people have some time to ask you any questions.
Okay, I'm really going to race. I'm wrapping up. Next slide. And so here you have the actions that we planned, including the launch of a public campaign on the individual giving side. Next slide. So here I just want to say that, you know, we are connecting the dots across the organization on all 3 of these elements that I have outlined. It's really important, for instance, that we focus on the 25th anniversary in making our pitches for both individual membership, individual giving, and the organizational membership. So that's what we will be doing. Clearly, the AMS is going to be a very important success factor for us, and working with the campaigns and the new website. So with that, I'm going to just say thank you very much.
Okay, Aisa, thank you so much, especially also for distributing, and this goes to other senior managers as well, for distributing the material well in advance, and also for following up our questions by email. So that was great, actually, to make the best use of this time. So thanks again. Anyone has any questions at this point? Sean.
So thank you very much for answering the questions beforehand. Thanks for this presentation. This is kind of exactly what I was looking for. The only thing that came up during the presentation is, when do you think the staff reorganization will be completed?
Well, as I said, Tim will be joining on the 3rd of April, and I would like to give us a little bit of time to take a look at what the needs are.
Yeah.
And so, I think by June I can report in on where we are on that.
Okay, great. That's really all I was interested in. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Perfect. John.
Two sort of separate questions. One is, have you had a chance to think at all about how the proposal of this somewhere else?
John, just to say, what you just mentioned is confidential, so I'm not sure I can really do that right now.
Okay, that's fine. And a less confidential question is, 500 grand from individual members is a lot. What's the value proposition there?
Well, first of all, I think that there's the opportunity to link this to the campaigns and some kind of call for action. And a lot of people like to give to a cause, and that's part of what we can work together with comms and others to do. So the value proposition is about, do you believe in something that we're doing, and do you want to support it at this stage?
Okay, would this be for the endowment or just directly for operations, or both?
This is not for the IETF endowment at this stage.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, John. Any further questions? I don't have anyone in the queue right now. Alice.
Yeah. Actually, not a question, more of a comment. I'm actually quite pleased to see that we are taking the issue of diversity very seriously, because it's actually impacting on several other areas. The NORMCOM and just the general perception of ISOC as an organization. So it's extremely important that we take the issue of diversity. I think we're not the only ones taking diversity very seriously. Other organizations in this space are taking it, extremely seriously and investing a lot of resources, not necessarily financial, to ensure that organizations working in the internet governance space are seen to be as diverse. And not necessarily ticking numbers that we have certain people from Latin America or a number of people from Africa, but that the views and issues and approach and the culture of the organization reflects that diversity as well. So I hope we're going to take that all the way through, including with our stakeholder engagement. And also that speaks to, I think, the issue that John brought up. I mean, like, for example, for the Africa region, what is the value proposition for an individual member contributing 500? It's quite an amount of money. So I think we may want to think about that a bit more in depth and see what the value proposition it would be, for example, for an individual, to also ensure that at the individual level, we have diversity as well.
Thank you, Alice. Just a quick response to that. I would say, clearly we are all working on the diversity issue, and that's something that I believe the listening and understanding what is valuable in different regions is really key. It's not uniform. To your other point, I think that this is going to be a learning process. What do people feel is valuable to them? Why would they give? We have certain ideas. We've had certain feedbacks from people. At the same time, there are people out there who would like to give a large amount to a cause. And so we'll see. We're going to do our very best.
I would also say that our strategy remains that we would welcome people and into the chapters. So we would keep that notion going, that there is a place to be part of this community. So I don't want to lose that notion either.
Thank you very much. Great work.
Okay, thank you. Next in the queue is Desiree.
Yes, I like your presentation, Aisha, very much, and trying to answer some of the questions we raised on the mailing list. And especially, I think I like this methodology you laid out, from followers to members to leaders and donors, I think. And it's quite a new and good strategic way of dealing with membership. And the question I have, to which I don't have the answers, is what do you do when you try to go and reach out to diverse members in Africa, let's say, or Southeastern Europe, and they donate money to ISOC rather than the chapter? We have some issues in the UK when organizations give money to ISOC but not to the local chapter, and they said, oh, we're already giving it to ISOC. So not that I have an answer, but I think it would be good to see to address this question. Yeah.
I think, Desiree, that's a very important point. I think that as we go out and are reaching out to stakeholders, for instance, in Africa, we're also raising awareness about not only what our African Regional Bureau is doing, but what the chapters are doing. And so, encouraging them to be part of the chapter work at a local level, as well as being part of the global level work and becoming more of a pillar for us in the communities. We have to do that, I think, in every region as we're reaching out, so that it's layered.
Yes, thank you. That would be great if that message is also relayed. And I saw something, advocacy tools in one of your long prepared list of tools that you're going to use. I just wonder, who is that aimed at?
I think you're referring to the advocacy toolkit, which is part of what we want to do to strengthen our individual members' ability to promote our messaging and our mission. So developing something that is responsive for them, make it easier for them, just like we have, work that we're doing to do that for chapters. The individual members also need to have that kind of support.
Thank you, Aisha.
Okay, perfect. The queue is empty now, so let me actually second something Hans-Peter was mentioning in the chat room, which we had a set of action points that we were tracking actually in our dashboard about memberships, and Aisha has been actually tackling them. So I think at this point, if nobody has any objection, I would like to close the action point on being able to reach individual members. Any objections to that? Okay, so Kevin, please, when you have a chance, please mark that as done, and then I'll go over other action points, because as Hans-Peter said, we were talking about many things and they've been actually addressed very well. I'm very happy about that. Okay, thank you, Aisha, about the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so next I think is James, right?
That's right. Thank you, Gonzalo. So I'm actually going to share the presentation, or attempt to share the presentation from my screen so that I can just run through that smoothly. So let me see if I can get that up.
We can see your folder. We can see your folder, so.
Can you not see the presentation?
Yeah, you may have a dual screen configuration or.
No, let me try again. Okay, I'll try something different. Just 1 second.
Yeah, I believe we all have this. We all have the slide deck, so we can follow along at home if we need to.
Yeah, it is very slightly different.
Okay, there's a comment in the chat room that says that you need to open it before sharing. Okay, now we see it. Perfect.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
I tried to use the full version presentation format, but that didn't work for me. So, okay. So first of all, let me just clarify that whilst we have 2 agenda points on the agenda, this is actually just one presentation. And I'll try and stay well within the 35 minutes that's allotted, so we have time for questions. My aim with this is really to give you a sense of the work that is involved in our 25th year. 2017 represents a milestone. It's a point in time for us to make an impact. We've had 25 years of working to preserve our vision of an open, globally connected, trusted internet, and it's an opportunity to look back, celebrate our success, recognize the people who've contributed, and as Aisha has pointed out, focus on our community. It's also a moment, a timely moment for us as an organization as well, as we are strategically strengthening ourselves for the future. The badge actually that you see here on the right is a reveal and is an update to the deck that you have, but we've created this especially to use alongside our core logo to help mark out this year and to tie our work together and to create a lasting impression. So I couldn't resist one small reveal to you today. Primarily, we will use our 25th to help us drive our beliefs in our strategic objectives and our beliefs around access and trust. We'll be visible in the world around those two issues and as an organization. Strategically speaking, of course, and as Aisha has already pointed out, I see the 25th year as a key moment to help us become that advocacy-oriented organization we're driving towards. It's also an opportunity to celebrate our origin and our history and 25 years of working towards our mission. We can draw attention to our role in the world through our 25th. We can show how we're making a difference, drive visibility for us, and bind more people to our cause, which goes directly to our membership strategy. We'll place a high priority on looking to the future, understanding, I think, that the value of our work over the past 25 years actually lies in its application for the future. We want our 25th to be the way to project our relevance on the next 25 years, hence the hashtag, and that's the social media glue that we'll be using throughout the year to link to all our activities. With that in mind, we'll be honoring our community luminaries and pioneers, as well as celebrating youth. So those are two key things that we'll be focused on in the year. Crucially, it's a year for action. It's an opportunity to push our agenda, position ourselves as an influencer on those key strategic areas of access and trust. We want to promote membership through those issues, strengthen our global network, engage and empower our community, identify next generation leaders, and maximize the value that we have in our Hall of Fame program. There are several activities to help us achieve all of this as part of our 25-year plan. First and foremost, we will be global. As a global organization, we are taking that to heart, and we are ensuring that we are visible and recognized and acting, driving engagement around the world. Firstly, we'll be present at the IETFs that are happening this year. Secondly, we'll be present through a range of external events, some of which have already happened, such as the RSA conference Kathy mentioned, where Olaf was on a really interesting panel. We had a lot of engagement through that, especially on social media. We drove some very good tech trade media coverage as well. We expect to do exactly that with other events coming up, such as RightsCon, the G20 series of events, one of which Sally will be at this month in Berlin, talking about ethical data, and in fact that ties in with Consumer Rights Day, and then Kathy's high-level G20 appearance in April as well. There are other things happening in the regions which we will bring a global focus to, such as the Africa Internet Summit, Mobile World Congress in Shanghai, Grace Hopper in Florida, all of which we'll use to drive our thinking around our two areas of access and trust. Thirdly, we'll also be connecting the world through our own events, regional internet dialogues, for example, that are happening in Europe and Africa this year. Our AFBIF event, which is one of our sort of flagship homegrown events, which is in Côte d'Ivoire. A series of roundtables and issues-based discussions, launches such as the Caribbean Report launch, which has already happened in February and drove a lot of attention there. And in fact, other small island developing nations are looking at exactly that report to inform some of their own policies in terms of how they're looking at the internet. And our own ISOC at ICANN events and community forums as well. Last but not least, we'll be connecting our community and the world through Intercommunity 2017. These locations are indicative of what we might expect. Suffice to say that when Intercommunity happens, there will be an emphasis and a focus on the global south. So that's what we have here. In terms of some of those events, we'll be driving some special roundtable discussions to demonstrate our thought leadership. With the help of Sally's team, we're actually partnering with UK-based Policy Institute Chatham House to drive an engagement around a roundtable in London on May the 11th. That will be on ethical data. We'll be bringing internet experts, industry influencers, senior government officials together to answer and discuss some key questions about the internet, such as, will the internet of the future be a force for social cohesion, or will it contribute to fragmentation of the public sphere? Beyond that, the Roundtable series also ties to our focus on youth. We'll be kicking off our focus on youth with a Q1 community forum on March the 16th, at which we will talk about a number of things that are happening to tie our activities to youth, one of which in future will be the June Roundtable focused on the entrepreneurship and youth community. We'll be doing some other roundtables later on in the year, and there will be an opportunity at that point in Q3, Q4 to tie to some other work that we're driving, such as our Internet Futures work, which I'll talk about in a minute, but is very strategic for us and which we can maximize and amplify as we do that. And we're making sure that we're tying these roundtable conversations with key events and topics of discussion that are happening in the world. As I mentioned, we're putting a spotlight on youth. Our 25 under 25 program is a key way that we're doing that. And in fact, it's representative and indicative of a longer arc to engage youth at the Internet Society and to bring them into the fold. As Aisha mentioned, we're looking to our campaign work and our focus in the 25th year to drive a different kind of membership. And we're seeing youth as a pivotal way to do that. This is all about celebrating a diverse group of 25 entrepreneurs, technologists, and breakout talents who are making an impact on the internet. We'll be collaborating with our chapters to identify those exceptional next generation leaders under the age of 25 as a way to drive youth engagement in the chapters, and as I say, to boost that 95,996 global membership figure that we have today. We'll be building a media campaign around this 25 under 25 program, highlighting the profiles of these people using shine the light style photography and tactics to profile them. And we'll be bringing these 25 leaders, once identified, to the Internet Hall of Fame ceremony to network with the Hall of Fame inductees. Speaking of which, the re-energized Hall of Fame is part and parcel of and integrated with Intercommunity this year. We are using the Internet Hall of Fame induction ceremony to kick off Intercommunity proceedings, and in that way, it'll be a primary focus of the global session. It'll be hosted from Los Angeles in California. We're going to be welcoming a smaller group, about 8 to 12 inductees in the Hall of Fame. Trustees will be invited to participate in that, of course, in that ceremony, and then we'll have other invited guests, which will include previous inductees, 25 under 25 recipients, and other key players in ISOC's history. There are a number of associated activities around the Hall of Fame as well, including inductee interviews, reception, aside from the ceremony, and a dinner. So in the sense that the Internet Hall of Fame is inseparable really from Intercommunity, Intercommunity itself and the base premise of Intercommunity hasn't changed. It's still a way to connect with our community and for them to connect with us and to celebrate our shared successes. As in past years, it'll be an online event in many ways, but it's hybrid in the sense that we are having that main event, including the Hall of Fame ceremony, broadcast from Los Angeles in California. Importantly, Intercommunity will integrate the past with the future, not only the Hall of Fame with Intercommunity, it'll integrate those youth 25 under 25 leaders with our pioneers, our internet pioneers, and it'll integrate the celebration of our commitment to a secure and accessible internet with the community. Following the broadcast of the Hall of Fame ceremony, we'll pass the torch, if you like, of intercommunity around the world. We'll be doing that through an event design, which is already well along the path. It's a true follow the sun model. It'll start at midnight on the 19th of September and run for 18, 19 hours. And we'll be passing one node off to the other around the world. There'll be 17 node locations in total. Those node locations will be finalized by the end of March, but they will feature locations which either have a historical significance for us or are home to the Internet Hall of Fame, or a historical significance for the Internet as a whole. And of course, we're collaborating with the regional bureaus to determine where those places should be, making sure that the Global South is represented. In brief, the way that intercommunity will work is that each of those nodes will have an hour's worth of airtime. There'll be 10 minutes for introductions. There'll be 30 minutes based on some of the substantive content and outputs from our Internet Futures work. So you can begin to see how that is such an integral piece of the 25th year. There'll be 10 minutes of conclusions or so, and then a 10-minute shared slot with the next node to celebrate and pass on learnings and information. So by the time we get to intercommunity, a lot of things will have come together to help us bring the celebration to a point of culmination. And this is just an example, and again, this is different from the deck you have, but it's an example of how we're using that specially applied 25th anniversary badge and how it can be used throughout the course of the year. There are two important other pieces of work which I want to mention. The first of which is really a community-driven idea. We wanted to find a way for the community to think back to the beginning of the internet and how the internet started from the perspective of individuals, depending on where they are in the world. Their experience of the inception of the internet may be very different from somebody else's, and we wanted to provide a way for them to share their views and thoughts and memoirs of the launch of the internet. So we are building a way for them to do that, most likely through Connect. That'll give us a number of features which will be useful and flexibility to actually deliver that experience to the community. And we'll be looking to launch this as part of the Q1 Community Forum on March the 16th that I've already mentioned. Secondly, the Internet Futures work, which is tied to a number of things I've already talked about, deserves special mention. This really is a collaborative initiative to identify the factors that could change the internet as we know it. It's a flagship project tied to our 25th. It's integral to many of the activities and central to our work going forward. It's a way to put our work today in a future context. We're really reflecting the real anxieties and hopes and dreams of people and owning the idea of the internet of the future. We've got 25 years experience of guiding us towards that future. And now we're building on that legitimacy by advocating for the future we want, by asking, what are we doing today to drive us to that future? We've already reached out to more than 1,500 members, Internet Society members from around the globe. Out of that work, we've identified 6 key drivers, or what we're calling drivers, but they're really forces for change. And we're using those to develop a map of possible futures and recommendations that set out what we should be doing now to keep the internet open and to deliver the future we want. Those recommendations will be identified for governments to implement to ensure that the core invariants in which we believe are preserved. Currently, we're developing the content. The design process has already begun. We're moving forward very well with the development of the report, and we'll have it ready for review in June. Ideally to launch, the target launch will be early September ahead of Intercommunity so that it can form the basis for those conversations and discussions. Our 25th year is also, of course, the context for our campaign work. It's a prime opportunity to work towards impact and outcomes. We have our identity in place. This creates an ideal moment to do more in access and trust. So these campaigns are designed to make us visible, but they're also designed really to amplify the work that Sally, Raul, and Olaf's teams are doing, and to drive specific actions. We want to drive a campaign that delivers on access and trust, that engages women and youth, that showcases the work we're doing around the world such as Beyond the Net program, to deliver a better internet for the future. What that means is, in terms of tactics, a mix of work that will happen underneath and within the campaigns. First and foremost, we'll be driving a targeted global brand campaign. This is our opportunity to express ourselves in the world and to point out what it is we believe we're working for. This picture at the bottom is taken from our first foray into public space advertising around the WSIS +10 event in the forum in New York. And this is the kind of thing that we'll be doing again in this year in a more targeted way, linking to some of those external events and our own events that I've already talked about in order to drive a specific set of actions. We will run a media campaign to boost our press engagement around access and trust. We'll place articles, we'll do more interviews as a way to influence thinking and shift perceptions. We're going to create a whole series of compelling content, including video and reports and content to support reports, as well as drive social media engagement across the campaigns. We'll have a dedicated campaign website, which will drive those specific actions with those audiences that we want. We'll want people to educate themselves and others, for example. We'll want people to share content, join an action group, sign a letter, become a member to Aisha's presentation. And it's all about asking people to join us and be part of what it is that we're driving towards. To do all of that, we'll be working with a specialist campaign partner where we will agree on the approach, on the supporters that we need to recruit and the tactics to do that, how we'll get people to take those desired actions. We'll work with them to design the online and offline tools and what success looks like in terms of campaigns. My hope is that coming out of this work and delivering success through our Access and Trust campaign this year is to set us on a course for doing even more than that in future and to growing into that advocacy-oriented organization that we're becoming. Chapters and the chapter network we have around the world is also central to our 25th plan. Beyond access and trust and the campaigns that we're driving to support that, there's something of a third campaign, a brand or identity-led campaign to build community ties, empower the chapters in their work, and strengthen the bond that we have with the chapters. Under this initiative, we'll be delivering a whole range of identity assets that will help the chapters and help the regions to tell our story around the world. That work has already begun. We put out a survey in Q4 last year to gather the input from the chapters in terms of understanding what it was that they most felt they needed. We're going out with that. We've gone out with that survey again in Q1, and we're now at a point where we're building a list of the things that chapters really have expressed an interest in. But they are looking very much along the lines of such things as guidelines for newsletters and blogs, a photo and video library, templates for business cards, for other Word documents and PowerPoint, regional content, digital assets, such as HTML newsletter templates, social media best practice guides, banner templates, and training sessions. So all of that will be delivered as part of our Empowering the Chapters identity-led work. And last but not least, our 25th year is obviously time to make our website happen as well. At the end of this project, we'll have a clear content strategy both developed and executed. We'll have a CMS platform selected and implemented. We'll have our ongoing website governance strategy in place. And ultimately, the new website for the Internet Society will be delivered and launched. We have a number of ambitions for that website, which tie to where we're going in terms of becoming an advocacy-based organization. We need a website that I think sells ideas, that organizes people, that provides tools, and that raises money, and that recruits members. It serves as an avenue to action. We know that our website is our best ambassador, and we need it to be our flagship in achieving those things. Secondly, we need it to convey a fundamentally global perspective. It needs to be inclusive, it needs to offer good thinking around diversity and gender balance, and it needs to be dynamic and up to date. Thirdly, to address some of the key problems that we know we have had in the past with our current website, we have to have a website that's easy and navigable. It's visually engaging, meets accessibility and security requirements, and is usable across devices and different networks. We want it to engage, educate, encourage action, and support our community. On that point, I think it's very important to say that we also would like really need the website to be a product of our community, which is why when we get to that point, we'll be developing and designing the internet, the website, sorry, in the open. I'll come on to that, and Todd may well touch on that point as well when he speaks on that in a second. All of that thinking is really encapsulated in the vision that we now have for the website, which is here. This is possibly the most important foundational building block that we have as a cornerstone for our work in developing the website. It will also allow us to measure whether the website that we end up with indeed fulfills this criteria. So this vision is our set of guiding principles for developing the website going forward. In terms of where we are now, just a very quick update. There's been quite a lot of work that's happened. There was a mini project reset to ensure that we were on the right track in Q3. Since then, a number of things have happened and been delivered. Not least, our user segmentation work and website plan has been completed. A best practice document around development for the website is completed. A midpoint workshop to review user segmentation and the website strategy is done. We've defined functional content and technical requirements. We've held a technical requirements workshop. So we are in fact moving very quickly and in a really strong way through our timeline. We've completed that definition phase, and we're now at the point where we're ready to start work on information architecture, the user experience, and the visual design. That will take us to the beta site launch in the open, around which we will be gathering community and board input and feedback, ultimately to the launch of our finalized website in October. Todd, did you want to come in and mention anything here?
Yeah, just a couple of things, James. Thank you. From technical and operational aspects, we have a great opportunity with this site rebuild to wipe the slate and clean up a bunch of challenges and issues that we've had in the installation and the maturing of our CMS over the last four to 5 years. We have the chance to do some archiving of content, obviously, an opportunity to right-size the applications we're delivering now to audiences via our website. So just a quick update, we're planning on doing a complete bare VM install of the site when we get this all going. We'll have a new database, updated modern CMS, and right now the leading candidates include Drupal 8, WordPress 4.7, and there's some conversations going on about Joomla 3.6 as well. We're reviewing our technical and content specifications to select which CMS best fits our needs for rapidly deploying content and meeting the needs of our audiences, and amplifying the work that ISOC does, obviously. We've done a content and application inventory, and those have been completed, and we're working to really understand what all that is and make the appropriate decisions and be able to isolate some pieces that need to be duplicated or rewritten, migrated, or archived. James mentioned the beta site. I think we're going to attempt to kind of follow in the model that our friends over at, oh my gosh, John, I'm so sorry that I'm, not John, Richard, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting, Mozilla. Mozilla does in trying to do some development out in the open. And then lastly, we're looking at, and you heard Aisha touch on this a bit in her presentation, we're looking at our entire information ecosystem and making sure that we let our best tools, both those we have and those we're working to implement, do their jobs, streamline our user experience, and make sure we have the touch points with our site that are very strategic and journey-based. So just wanted to give you a little flavor of where the technology and operational aspects are going as well. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Todd. I just have a couple more slides. I wanted to provide you with a glance at what the year looks like in terms of the complete timeline. the point really here, I think, is that there's a lot of work going on to make our 25th year a success. We're already quite far ahead with a lot of it, and we are in the midst of executing on the plan. And with that, I'll hand back to you. Many thanks.
So are you open for questions now?
Yes, of course.
Okay, excellent. So I have a queue here building up. First is Walid.
First of all, let me say I'm delighted by this progress and being able to give us this overview. I feel that this is a momentous thing, so we need to take full advantage of it. The thing I thought when you raised the issue of the AMS, it looks like there needs to be more work on that particular part, because it's the functionality of adding members to chapters, etc. And this is really where things get a bit cumbersome for members. Maybe that is one of the reasons why membership didn't rise to that level. So it's useful to focus very exclusively on making sure that the AMS works in very proper ways, because we want to raise expectations and meet expectations. So in relation to that, I'd like to note that this is internet is moving mobile. So most of the new Southern users would probably prefer using a mobile device more than a regular desktop. So it would be of value to ensure that there is some sort of app for the AMS chapter management. I've seen this issue raised on many occasions with chapters, with others. So I don't know how much it would take in terms of time, but considering that if we have a release of an app, iOS and Android for the start, ensuring that members go, okay, from now on, you will be able to get notifications when chapters join, members join, when you would like to send an announcement to your members, so they'll all pick it up on their devices. In terms of the third aspect that you mentioned, James, which is usability, I'd say this is making us aware of the trend and aware of what usability means for end users. And so just keep that in mind and see how feasible it is. Thank you.
If I might, Walid, thank you for that. Just to touch on that very lightly, we are definitely, all of this that we're working on, mobile first, I guess, is a way to think about that. Both in the website, which is the process that James and I are working on together, but also a project that myself and one of the gentlemen on my team, Lincoln McNay, are working on in looking at replacing the AMS completely with a modern system that brings all of that to bear, including better chapter support, better chapter self-support, as well as membership tools and applications that we can deliver via both mobile and desktop and all of that. So all of that is on our list. I think by the time we come together in June, we'll be able to give you a bigger picture as appropriate to talk about where we are with the AMS project as well. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Perfect. Next is Richard.
Hey, I'm just going to hit a couple of my usual points on this topic. Actually, brief response to Walid. I think I would encourage the teams to perhaps, instead of focusing immediately on apps, to keep the focus on mobile, because I think there might be some approaches with responsive or progressive web apps that could be a more straightforward solution. I might offer some better kind of continuity from the web to apps. The thing I had on my agenda was, of course, HTTPS. Obviously, thanks to Todd and Lincoln and the team for their help in making that happen. Just wanted to confirm that that's on the requirements list for the new website, that will be all secure and all encrypted. And ask if that might be something that we could promote to chapters in terms of the guidelines we present to them for their website updates. So that's question one. Question two is with regard to timing. It looks on the timelines you were presenting, James, as if the website were scheduled to launch in around October. It seems like that might miss the 25th anniversary stuff that was going on in September. So just wondering how those two things align. Thanks.
So thanks, Richard. Let me address that second point with regards to the timeline. Yes, I think ideally what we would want to have ready is certainly the beta of the website will be there, and we can use that to support our activities at Intercommunity and for our 25th. But you know, we hope that we'll be in a position to possibly even bring that time frame forward a little bit, but we're going to have to watch it closely as we move through a year, just to see how things are going to fit together.
Perfect. Okay, thank you guys, and yeah, thanks again for the TLS part of things. I mean, that was very useful. We were tracking that as well as one of the requirements, so thanks for tackling that. At this point, the queue is empty, so thank you, James. Thank you, Todd, for the presentation. That was very useful. Kathy, do you want to wrap up the block?
So thank you for your attention and for your good questions. By the way, James is doing what one should do. You know, you have to underpromise and overperform. We really do hope that website, at least beta, is ready for the 25th. Richard, you're totally right. So we're on it. Look, this is a big year, I think, for moving the external agenda that we've been developing over the last number of years. This is about making sure that we are presenting ourselves more widely outside of our smaller, it's large, but it's still a smaller community. And it's about making sure we all, and you all, by the way, have the talking points around who is the Internet Society and why is it important, why is it still relevant, as we discussed yesterday, in a very tumultuous world. So we will also make sure you have what you need. So when you're speaking it out, you can talk about this issue. And then just finally on the Internet Hall of Fame, right now we are in conversations with both UCLA and USC to host the actual induction ceremony. We understand quite well that there could be some reluctance about coming to the US. I think that we need to make that decision fairly soon, at least tentatively, that we would go ahead and do this. I will hold this for the next session for us to discuss, but I wanted to make sure that you understood that we are in active discussion and we're about to have to make some decisions. And so Gonzalo, perhaps in the next session, we should just raise this, okay? So thank you. We've done a lot this quarter. As you can see, people have been working quite diligently. You did not hear from most of the folks. All of what you see has a whole team quite engaged. So I hope you are as pleased as I am with what's happened thus far. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Give me a second because Haris was asking something on. Okay, so Haris is asking, how will you guys measure success with the new web? So what is the main goal that you guys have? That was, yes, his comment on the chat room. I'm just relaying the comment.
Yeah. So I think, as I mentioned, ultimately we want a website that fulfills the vision. And then underneath that, I think there are specific criteria that we can map out that will ensure that we have a website that, for example, meets accessibility web standards, for example. So we have criteria in mind. I think we probably need to map that out in detail, but we already have a very good sense of the kind of website we need through those ambitions and through the definition work that has already taken place. And so mapping out those criteria and ensuring that we meet that in terms of what we deliver is not a hard job to do.
So I'm going to take it just a level higher. I think the only way that we are available and can appear to the world is through the internet itself. And the website will be the portal into who we are. So as I say to the team, we have to be an internet company, frankly. We only have 90 of us. We have 95, maybe 1,000 members, and we would like to have the actual people in the places where we are that represent the Internet Society. But the Internet Society itself will only grow if we have this online presence. So that's the way I would gauge success here.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Desiree had a question, but it was answered by Todd on the chat room. So at this point, we don't have any more questions. Is that right?
Sorry, I was another clarification I wanted to offer. In terms of success of the website, I would think, bearing in mind the cost we're putting in towards the toolkits for chapters, one of the key measurements would be the integration and use of material and money dedicated towards chapters to implement this. So I think we need to really watch carefully how well is this taken up by chapters and how feasible it is.
Well stated, thank you. We have a budget for this that we'll let you have a hard look at as we implement it. And Raul's all over this one together.
It is the same one as we saw in Hyderabad?
Well, it's now getting much more specific, right, about how we actually get the money out there, depending on how the chapter is able to integrate some of these things. So we'll get it to you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, it is the same numbers. We now just have to implement.
Gonzalo, before we're off this point, just one thing for the board members. I'm actually the representative on the website advisory group. So if you have any board specific things that you think need to be covered, or if you want to talk to me about what's being done, please contact me and then I can relay the information on to the appropriate people like Todd and stuff. So thanks.
Yeah, I was actually, Sean, wondering why you were not answering my messages, but then when I saw the video, I understood. So that's nice. Okay, perfect. Any other questions before we wrap up? Okay, excellent. So thank you, Kathy, for organizing the presentations, and thank you, Aisha, James, and Todd, and all the other senior managers, obviously. And again, I mean, I want to stress that I really appreciated that you guys distributed stuff in advance and actually addressed comments by email, so that we could actually concentrate on issues that they need actually a high bandwidth channel and a voice channel or video channel in this case. Thank you. So. Moving on to the last point on the public session today, which is any other business. Anybody has something to add? Something to discuss? Okay, seeing and hearing none, let me scroll because there's so many people I need to scroll down to see all the video screens. Okay, perfect. So thank you very much to all people that joined. And thank you very much to all people that may be watching remotely, because this is the first time we are recording and posting the videos online. So I hope that's useful. Thank you. So at this point, Kevin, could you please stop the recording? Okay, so welcome again. We are again in public session. We did agenda bashing and we're gonna vote on a resolution. We're not gonna read the resolution because it's quite long, but actually Kevin distributed it before on the mailing list with the amendments capturing basically all the comments up to Walid's comments. Kevin, you don't need to share it at this point, but everybody should have it. So basically, the idea is to vote on this resolution. So somebody moves, somebody makes the motion. Okay, Olaf wants to make a comment before that. Olaf?
Yeah, you said up to Walid's motion. Is it up to and including, or it just?
So the last proposed resolution that Kevin distributed includes Walid's comments.
Okay,
right?
Thank you.
If you have it on the screen, we can double check. No?
Yeah, okay. So Kevin, if you can go real quickly and so that Walid confirms that his comment is indeed addressed, that'd be perfect.
Yes, it is.
It is. Okay, perfect. So Kevin, if you can go back to the video screen, that'd be, yeah, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I sent to the chat room the order in which I'm gonna be calling, but first, would somebody make the motion? Sean. Okay, and Harry seconds. So we're gonna vote this by roll call, as we always do when it comes to spending ISOC's money, because that's the way we want to take these resolutions. So I send the order to the list, and that's the order in which I'm gonna be calling people. The options are, any comment before we do that? Okay. So if everybody can mute, that'd be perfect as well, because we need to hear the trustees voting. So the options are to vote yes to pass the resolution, to vote no how to vote abstain. And you should say yes, no, or abstain when I ask. So we start with Walid. Walid?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Gonzalo? I vote yes. Olga?
Yes.
Ian? Hans-Peter?
Yes.
Hiroshi?
Abstain.
John?
I vote yes.
Okay. Desiree?
I vote yes.
Alice?
Abstain.
Harish?
Yes.
Shan?
Finding the mute button, I vote yes.
Okay, perfect. So, John, can you provide us the count of votes?
I see 9 yes votes and 3 abstentions, so it passes.
Okay, so the resolution passes with 3 yeses and 3 abstentions. So thank you. Now we would like to conclude the public part of this meeting, and we're gonna move into executive session again. So thank you. Kevin, at this point you can stop the recording.